Check in, people, check in. Welcome back, man. Welcome back, Nicardo Media House there again. You don't know, the morning inside. I bless up to the people, yeah. New Year started out really well so far. Hope the New Year started out really well for you guys. You understand? But you don't know, the morning inside of there, I'm here to report on two matter. One is something that it hit me, in terms of, what is really going on with the player, Isaac Hayden, and the other one, Jonathan Russell, I have a fair assessment to make on, Jon Russell. But let me just say this, let's start off with the first. I think this is probably the most important out of the two, Isaac Hayden. So, yesterday evening I was watching my last football game of the day, and it was a game against Sunderland versus Sheffield. I Sunderland is up there, in the, I think it's the northwest, of England, same area of Newcastle biggest rival. After the game finished, I picked up my phone same time, because after around 5 at that time, I have certain podcasts and I have certain radio stations that I listen, where I can get, information, and you just never know what you can hear or what can say on any particular player, especially reggaeboy player. And look, I'm so lucky that when I went on, the BBC Time and where, that's the BBC that cover the area of where Newcastle is at. I was listening to them, talking about the game, the Sunderland and Sheffield game, and also talking about other, club teams that's from up in that area that played in the lower tier. And right after the program, finished, they have this segment where they're talking about Sunderland and Newcastle players, which players more likely to leave the club, and Isaac Hayden name, eventually called up in that conversation. And I must say, look, it's kind of worry, to be honest, because what they have said that, look, at this time, there is no club, there's no concrete interest, about Isaac Hayden. Look, he still have like a year and a half left back on his contract at Newcastle. I think it's runs out at 2026, next year. So I don't know, man. I don't know where to turn, but it's so fascinating that, they said like there's no concrete interest, there's nothing there at this moment. And they call a few other players' name, but I'm talking about Isaac Hayden too, because he's a reggae player, he's what matter to us. I'm looking at it like, I remember even in November, Steve McLaren was talking about the article that I found on Twitter, I think I even talk about it as well, that Steve McLaren, saying to the player that, look, hey, you need to find a club, you need to leave, that atmosphere, you need to leave, Newcastle, from playing India under 21. And also, even when I was looking back on certain things, because I heard that, and I started to look back up on some things, of Isaac Hayden, and I even saw that he played a game. I even know that, he still played a game, for the under 21s. He played a game, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. You understand? But people, tell me what you guys really think that, if the January month runs out and Isaac Hayden is still at Newcastle playing under 21 football. Look, if the January period runs out and he's still stuck at Newcastle, I think it's worrying. I think it will be worried for us, because his fitness, we're going to 2 games before the World Cup, the World Cup qualifier, the World Cup going to be our last big tournament before we go off to play, in the qualifiers in the 3rd round, and also, for the World Cup. So the World Cup should be something really important that we really take serious, and just to know where the level of fitness and, his headspace, and, you want him to have more minutes and minutes on the grass, so he can in that mode, in that rhythm. Football is a mental sport. If your mental capacity is not there, it's really hard to focus, you understand? But I just want to say, man, what you guys really think about, Isaac Hayden. There's nothing yet around his name of moving to a club. Is it out on loan? Is it out, is a permanent transfer? I know he's on that big wages, and look, at his career, I don't think he will ever get those type of money again, unless he's going to pick up a contract somewhere in the Middle East. But reportedly over 50k a week. I don't think he will ever get that. Then I think he have passed his heights in his career of getting, anywhere close to that. So I think at this time, he could never be thinking about like, you know, run that contract down, get every penny that he deserved. You know, look, we know that when you sign a contract, you love to get every penny that you work, but at times you have to walk away from things, yeah. And I just think that the best thing for him is to rip up that contract, because I can say this: what happened in the summer just passed, his wage was a massive part of why certain clubs, you know, walk away from his signature. Newcastle are not willing to pay any wage for him so he could go out and loan, and only a few selective of clubs in the championship that can manage his salary. You know, probably teams like Leeds, you know, teams like that just been up in the Premier League, you know, have ambition to go back to the Premier League. You know, not many clubs, you know, probably maybe QPR, you know, clubs like Norwich, you know, certain clubs can really match that wage bill that, you know, Isaac Hayden will carry on them. But I mean, let me know what you guys really think of, you know, Isaac Hayden, you know, of this, knowing that the January transfer window is open now. You know, what you would think of him if he's still stuck at Newcastle by the end of the month, and, you know, looking forward for summer transfer window again to see if he will leave the club. Yeah, what will that say about the player? Will that cause an havoc between him and Steve McLaren, you know, in terms of selection for the national team? Let me know what you guys think. Moving on, you know, Jonathan Russell, look, I have said, like, you know, when Jonathan Russell scored on Peterborough, you know, a couple of days ago, I said that, you know, he had a really tough games coming up at home against Wrexham, and I almost said, people, you know, Jonathan Russell, you know, if you didn't watch that game, you know, Barnsley versus Wrexham, if you didn't watch that game live, you wouldn't see any of those stuff that Jonathan Russell do on the pitch. Those stuff doesn't, you know, popped up on the stat sheet. And I must say, look, a lot of people, when they talk about Jonathan Russell and why or how he's not in the team, what happened, try to figure out a problem, even when Emir Grimsby was there. Or, you know, people say he might be slow. No, I think that Jonathan Russell is that complete overall midfield player that he can serve us a purpose if we use him properly, utilize him the right way, and play to his strength. You know, when I look at, you know, Jon Russ and how, you know, he really played in that midfield, you know, he brings a lot of physicality. You know, they use him up in the set piece, you know, when there's a corner, when there's a free kick. You know, he's so physical in that midfield. You know, and look, the way how I saw, you know, how he picked up, you know, the empty space, you know, how he running the channels of trying to mark players out, the way he recover, you know, dealing with his team. His back was against the wall the last 25-30 minutes of that game. Wrexham took over that game, and you could see how he, you know, he transformed his game. You know, you could see that his game is developing more and more. You could see that, look, this is a player, you know, he's maturing. You know, I remember when he was at Huddersfield, he was right there up in the ice where his market value was close to $1 million. Now his trajectory, market value, is going back up to that. So his game, his performance has raised, and I think that he is the best midfielder playing at their club right now that play for the reggaeboyz. I don't know which other midfielder we have right now is playing better than Jon Russ, and I think Jon Russ is knocking on the door of Steve McLaren. Yeah, look, if he comes and play real well for St. Vincent, a lot of people are going to say, yes, it's St. Vincent, but I think there's a quality there, and I think that he's not a League One player. I think he's probably a mid championship, top half championship. I don't think he's Premier League ready as yet, but if you ask me if Jon Russell can go overseas, yeah, I think, you know, look at how, you know, he's been playing with a lot of physicality, with a lot of energies, he's running. And there's another stat that, look, the commentator have said it yesterday in the game as well, that, look, Jonathan Russell is in the top 5 of Barnsley players who have covered the most kilometers of the season so far. Yeah, so that tells you a lot, that the player is running, the player is fit. Yeah, he's in his best shape of his life at this moment, you know. But I just think that, you know, playing League One, I don't think he's a League One player. I think he can be playing, you know, right up there, one of those top teams in the championship, mid-table. But not Premier League ready as yet, you know, but let me tell you, there's a player in Jonathan Russell, but we just have to know to utilize him really well. And if you go back to the Isaac Hayden, you know, these two players potentially are our two best players that can play the double pivot, and these are the two players that we really need. One is getting game times who have played over 1,300 minutes, you know, for his club team so far. Meanwhile, and next one only played just a few selection of games for the under 21, which is Isaac Hayden. So it's a real shame, you know, but let's see what's going to happen, you know, for Isaac Hayden. I'm really, you know, tracking, you know, his rumors, the transfer news around him, you know, see what will happen, if he will be held or if he will continue, you know, his football at Newcastle with the under 21. As long as Eddie Howe is still there, you don't have a future with Newcastle. And I think it's just time to move on, rip up your contract and move on, you know, sacrifice, you know, the 50k a week, and, you know, bring back your career alive. You know, bless up to everybody. Thanks for watching. This is Nicardo Media House with the Morning Insider. I'm out. Salute.